Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Good in you?
Yeah,
Yes.
hello.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Carl.
You're here as well. I didn't know
All,
you were joining. This is a bit unfortunate.
it's funny, hey, Lucas, I was thinking about it before. I think I'm seeing more of you now than when we were sitting in the same office.
Yeah, and now we have to meet on here as well. It's quite a strain. Awesome. I'm just trying to find out if we should kick things off already or if we should wait a little longer. For the people who have joined already, hello and welcome to our live session where we will be doing some work with Pace Analytics. And we have a magician in the background who will be guiding us through this live session, checking how many people are available, if anybody's posting any comments or questions. So big shout out to Daisy. Right away at the start, because I only did it at the end the last time.
But there was plenty of people left at the end last time as well, though, wasn't there?
Well, maybe I'm doing it now when not all people are here yet, so it might not be as helpful either.
Can't get it right, eh?
No, it's impossible. I'm sure I'll get to hear about it. No, just kidding. But yeah, how are you guys doing? Everything good at home? Do we have a dog, Philippe, that is
Right here.
join us for the live session?
As usual, whenever she wakes up.
She's gonna come around.
I don't,
Nice.
no dog over here, a girlfriend, but that's it.
That's an interesting transition.
Let's
Yeah.
not go there.
Still working on my segues, you know. But yeah,
Oh
we'll
man, so early on.
Yeah.
All
We're
right.
supposed to be live, Michael, if I may.
Oh, are we live?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Well, why are we watching Philippe then? Let's switch over to what we're here for.
Yes, fair enough. So let's kick things off. So we'll give a little bit of background first for the people who have joined already. So what we'll be doing today is we at Pace are in the process of launching a new product which we call Pace Analytics, and yes, we've been working a lot on this over the last weeks and months, and we've actually just launched a closed beta program, which is available for our customers, obviously in priority. And there we are kind of working with customers we've been very close with for the past months and years as a kind of a first priority. But yeah, the beauty of this is a new product that we want to bring to the market. Analytics has always been something which we quite honestly have kind of said it's secondary. First, we want to focus on price recommendations and making sure that our pricing engine really can work fully autonomously for you at your property. But obviously now we got to a point where we said, great, this is working really well. We want to shift our attention to analytics because everybody also needs to know what happens in their property and needs to get accurate reportings on this. So we'll jump straight in. This is not going to be your typical format of a webinar. We have not prepared any slides. We are cowboys enough to just demo this whole session. So let's, fingers crossed that we are not too confident about.
Are we still gonna have Michael play the hotelier? I thought that was fun last time.
I'll be Indians this time. You guys be cowboys, and we see where that gets us.
Sounds like a plan.
So I'm jumping straight in here. For the people who've joined our last live session, you might know some of this already that I'm going to share now. So please just bear with me. I'm just trying to organize this window here. There we go. And actually, guys, can you still see this if I go full screen?
For me, it's good, yeah.
Yeah? Perfect. All right, cool. Then let's actually start. So you can see a new tab here. So this is, sorry, for people who don't know Pace, this is our Pace app, where we kind of have some basic analytics on our property page. We have our actions where we have the rate pricing, and then we have some more features here. But the focus for today is going to be our analytics section of the app, where we're actually focusing on, the stuff that we've been building. And in here, before we start looking at these dashboards, we're going to structure the session today along basically two sections. The first section, we will talk about dashboards. So these are probably more commonly referred to as reports, but we call them dashboards, and there's a good reason for that. We'll talk about that later. And then in the second part of the section, we're actually going to talk about explores, which is actually kind of a curated access we're giving our customers to build these dashboards themselves. And I think without further ado, Philippe, Michael, we're just going to jump straight into this.
Yeah, so let's perhaps I think it would be nice. A lot of these things was covered, I think, in our last call already, but if we can just briefly go through the dashboards that are prepared. I think some are already aware of the fact that, just like you mentioned, it's a beta. So it's still sort of in the making, but there are some pretty cool stuff there already. So if you can walk us through that to start with, and then I know that you're really keen on building some stuff as well. So we'll do that in a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, awesome. So we'll focus on dashboards first and give you guys an overview of how they look like in Pace Analytics, what they mean, how you can use them, and the level of granularity you can actually achieve. So I'm just going to expand this over here. So you can see at the moment we have 6 dashboards which are built out, which we make available to you. All of these serve a different purpose, as the name kind of gives away here. And I'm just going to start right away with the group performance dashboard. So this is a dashboard we've built with the main purpose of providing our customers who have more than one property, which fortunately by now are quite a lot, who have more than one property and actually don't just want to look at each of their properties individually, but they want to aggregate the data across those various properties. So we've built a very simple dashboard here where we can basically compare kind of the revenue performance on the books versus last year actuals. We can compare the revenue performance actually also versus the same time last year. So we can kind of quickly dig into the data and understand where we're currently ahead or where we're behind. We can see currently it's mainly the coming months where we are ahead of last year. And probably one important point to mention, all of this demo is going to be on like simulated data, synthetic data that we produce on our side. So this is not actually data from any of our customers. Obviously, it's synthetic data that we kind of randomly generate. So if there are any quirks in here, I do apologize in advance. But
so the data might look a little bit optimistic with regards to the current situation.
You have formulated it a lot nicer than I could have. Yeah, you can also see, you look back in agony that we weren't able to attend ITB and actually show off these beautiful demo properties. But let us dig into what is actually possible on this dashboard. So as I mentioned, we can look at each of those tiles which have been built, but the power really relies on how we can manipulate this dashboard. So we can go in here and you can see there's a bunch of different filters that we've created, which customers or users can choose from when they're looking at this dashboard. Most of them, or a few of them, definitely should hopefully be quite obvious. So obviously if we have a group of different properties that we're working with, we might want to be able to just analyze a subset of those groups. So in here, as we said, we've kind of created this back then for ITB. So we have various different types of properties that we are working with. If it's apartments, hotels, or hybrids, you could say, I just want to have an analysis that runs for all of my apartments or all of my hotels, and I can just, I can just select that. There we go. I'll first look up. And from there on, I can just kind of run this analysis for all of the properties that I want to. So if I were to just choose these two, all of this would now update in the background, and we would see an updated dashboard that is just filtered for these two properties. Now, this obviously is not necessarily the biggest rocket science we have in here, because filtering by property is probably the most obvious thing that should be available. But you can see down here, we actually have a bunch more filters. And the reason why we're able to filter this so dynamically and flexibly is because everything you see in Pace Analytics is actually built on transactional reservation data. None of the data we're displaying in here is pre-calculated. So we don't have any restrictions on, oh, we can only filter, or we can only kind of filter by segment or by channel. No, we can filter by segment and channel because each reservation carries the information on segment and channel. So we could easily go in here and specify, okay, we want to, for these two properties, we want to actually go in here and pick the, I think the dynamic segment is one of the segments we have in here. If I can type dynamic, that's always helpful. Dynamic. And we could also go into the channel, and I know another channel in here. These dropdowns just sometimes take a little bit to load. Oh, there we go. Another one in here is booking.com. And all of a sudden, if we start to run this now, again, things would update and we would actually see everything filtered down on the dynamic segment and just for the booking.com channel. So this does take a little bit to load in the background because, again, we're going into the absolute detail of the data. But as you can see, this typically returns information fairly quickly. So I think we're benchmarking at the moment between 10 to 15 seconds. And this is during our beta. So obviously we're aiming to improve that even more. And then the last thing I want to show on here is, you probably noticed up here, I also have the ability to select currency. And in here, we actually have the ability to select any currency we like. So I could just switch to Great British Pounds. I could run this analysis again, and all of these data points now, especially obviously for revenue and ADR, for volume, it's not that relevant. So you see these are not updating. All of this will now be converted to British pounds. Now, the one or the other might ask themselves, how are we doing this? Because live conversions, or maybe why are we doing this? Think of the use case where you have properties in different countries and you have a currency that you report on a group level. But what you're probably more used to is to see individual kind of exchange rates, which are per month or per year, and then they get applied. What we actually do is we track all the exchange rates over the last, I think it's 2.5, 3 years on a daily level. So we can, at any point in time, if you just connect your property, for example, and you don't have any history tracked yourself on exchange rates, we have all of that data available, and we can actually drill into each of those currencies as you desire. I'm going to stick to this dashboard a little bit more, or actually, no, I'm going to jump to the next dashboard. I see Michael already looking at me.
Well, you know, like I like the group performance, the fact that you can sort of shift from one or a cluster of properties or the whole portfolio. I think that's super useful. And it's all good, but like I think the pickup is super interesting. And when you're running down into unit sold report, that's when I get really excited. So let's start off with this and then get to the unit sold, because that's I think the very interesting part here.
All right, so let's have a quick look at this one. So this is a pickup dashboard that we've built out. It starts off at the top by displaying you what is the pickup you've experienced for the last 30, 14, 7, and 3 days, as well as yesterday and today. So you always get a live picture of how things are going. And again, up here, you can select which property you want to look at. By default, we just always going for the whole group. And we always baseline on whatever the group's currency is defined as. But you can drill down on this as you want. But I won't focus on that for now. We actually—
Are you, by the way, Lucas, taking responsibility for the performance of this demo merchant? Because like one thing that I love, I see this, other than that it's performing really well throughout this difficult time, is also the fact that there's not a single canceled unit on these charts, which you know, however you did it, you got to share some advice here with me.
Well, one part is clearly salesy and we want to keep it looking good, but the other part is, by definition, that property is running pace on full automation, right? So here you go. Here's the secret.
I'm just waiting for that chart where we're going to say, oh, this property is clearly not using pace. I'm sure it's going to come. But yeah, I'm just quickly going to give a quick summary of what you can see here, because we think this is really cool, although you can't actually see cancellations in here. But this is like a weekly trend over the past weeks where you could analyze how many bookings have been created per week, how many bookings have been canceled, which in this case, unfortunately, there's none to show, and what was our net pickup. So you can imagine in current times, with COVID-19 being very active, this was very, very dramatic to observe for a lot of our customers, to see how kind of numbers have been plummeting. But also at the same time, it's a really great way to analyze and see first indicators of recovery. So what we're actually tracking internally is we're aggregating data across properties of our customers to understand how different markets are actually coming back. So at the moment, obviously, we have the news that Germany is kind of starting to open up more again. We have some other countries. I think we had a conversation earlier, actually, Philippe, Michael, about some other countries. So hopefully we can start sharing some more details on that on a blog post where we can share some anonymized data. But again, this is just to kind of show you what's possible. And then this is for you, Michael, the units sold report.
But what I like about that pickup report as well is the fact that it so clearly highlights the cancellations you're getting, because it tends to be one of the parts that we sort of overlook. We're always the most interested in seeing how many more reservations have we received, what's our pickup, and often it's a very large amount of new reservations coming in. And there is cancellations as well, but we sort of skip the step of looking at how many new reservations and how many new cancellations. We just look at what is the outcome in the end, how many more reservations have we got on the books for a specific period. And that's what I think is so great about the pickup part, where you can actually clearly see, all right, this is the amount of cancellations. Do we have a problem here or not? And this is the amount of reservations we're still receiving. So if both of those bars are very large, then it might not have to do with how we're pricing or the way we're sort of managing our channels. It might actually have to relate more to what kind of terms we give on our online channels, to our group segments, or whatever other channel you might be using. So it just gives much more of a contrast onto that pickup. So that's good. But this is the one I do like even more.
You do enjoy. Yeah. And the other thing which obviously is interesting here, so again, we have our filters. So we actually picked only the last 7 days of kind of the pickup period to see like for which nights are we picking up in the last 7 days. And these other charts here, so this is just in total. And in the other charts here, we actually started breaking things down by segment. So we can now actually see, okay, everything kind of this big bulk and volume here is well, for this kind of demo property or properties, it's the dynamic segment, which is for us anything that's public, anything that goes through OTAs or is direct. But we can see a fair amount of kind of groups starting to come in as well. We can also actually look at channels. However, this is a particular busy chart now because there's a lot of things happening. So you might want to actually dive into this chart more and break that down for only specific nights or specific channels. So if we say we just are curious about, maybe let's say Booking.com and Expedia, we could actually remove, maybe let's leave TripAdvisor in there as well. So maybe our 3 biggest online channels that we're selling through, and you can kind of see if there are any patterns. I'm looking at this. I personally don't see many patterns, but this could be really interesting to kind of keep an eye on, and also see, like Michael said, where do we maybe want to turn off a particular channel.
And
yeah.
It looks to me like you're almost about to skip one of the favorites, which is an eye opener in so many cases, and it's the one at the very bottom. Yeah, because this is just so crucial. There's so many of us who's been, you come into the office in the morning and you look over your pricing, and then you let the day pass, and in some cases you might go back in the afternoon. But if you look at where that volume is actually coming in throughout the day, it's super interesting, especially for the kind of properties that have a very diversified geo source around. So if you have a lot of business coming in from the US, you tend to see loads of bookings or activities happening early in the morning where you're likely to be asleep. And it sort of just highlights how important it is that you're comfortable with your pricing, not an hour or 5 hours after you've done it in the morning, but that you're actually well priced for when you go to bed, because that might just be where you pick up most of your reservations, especially in the dynamic segments.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And obviously also something where we really want to kind of support and help with our pricing engine. I think for our customers who have switched to autopilot, where we are automating prices every hour, there's no pickup that we can miss if you're asleep, if you're in the office or not. Right. That is definitely something where we believe we can help a lot. So we're getting to the end. I know we've been just zooming through this, but I've had feedback that there haven't been too many questions just yet. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and they will come through to us even if there's a little delay. But
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Would it be possible to share these dashboards, or to maybe give them to someone else in the property who might need them?
Oh my
God,
know
this is might sound like a leading question, but
it's almost. I mean, you've read my mind. It's like I
amazing.
wanted to do this right now to show you.
We're so on the same page.
I'm the most curious to see where it's going to be sent to.
I know. I mean, Philippe wants to see it, so I know whose email address we're going to share today. So for any dashboard that you navigate to, at the top right, we have this little settings wheel. And as you can see here quite quickly, there's very obvious choices what you can do in here. So you can download the whole dashboard as a PDF if you want to kind of take it and put it on a slide deck that you are preparing. If you have a model, like an Excel model, where you actually want to digest the data to do further analysis, you can get the raw data, or you can actually send that data by email to somebody else. But the option we're going to just quickly take a look at is actually the schedule, but it's just basically the same as send. The only thing is that we're going to take it off your shoulders to send this repeatedly. So in here, we're obviously going to call this Philippe's report. And in here, we're going to remove this lovely chap. Philippe, you wanted to have that on your PaySub, or was that your personal? Sorry, is that paysub.com?
Yeah, let's stick to the Pace one, maybe.
By the way, also for anybody who can read this, I'm not sure if this is actually going to be super fuzzy. Philippe at paysub.com, also the email address for you to reach out in case you want to find out more how to get access to Pace Analytics. But yeah, what you can do here, you can choose a format as how this should be sent. And then you can also obviously choose a schedule. So very typical what we have is a weekday only schedule where we send something out at 7 a.m. in the morning. So just before you get into the office, so you know exactly how your day finished before. You can even go as far and actually pick certain filters. So if you say, actually, I just care about my 1 day pickup. So I just care about what happened yesterday. And I also only care about these particular properties, or maybe you care about more, but you want to have them in separate reports. All completely possible. Once that's all hooked up, just hit save all, and the schedule is set up. So we can just show that here. This is now saved. Whenever you want to edit this, this is now here, Philippe's report. Obviously, we're not going to delete it because Philippe did want to receive this. So Philippe will have to find himself around this to delete it again.
And I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Luca.
I think that part is super nice, for obvious reasons, right? There is the daily pickup that a lot tend to do manually. You sort of update it, you send it out to a GM, the revenue team, and possibly the XCOM. And then I suppose the next step is really the fact that we're still sort of preparing reports on, there's a daily basis for the pickup typically. We tend to have sort of strategic meetings, and that's usually with the leadership team of each property. And that tends to be one sort of presentation. You might have some monthly meetings, either with the leadership team, could even be with the owners, and that's a different presentation as well. The sort of challenge is always the fact that each property sort of has their own reporting standards. Some of them you can sort of change because of you finding a better way to present numbers. But there's a lot of them where people are used to it, and you might not have the same ability to sort of move in towards another way of thinking, and you want to create those kind of reports again. And I think that's what is really, really powerful, and what I would love us to get into, the actual explorers, and then the ability to sort of make my own, because anything that I create in here, I can actually do the same with, right? So I wouldn't necessarily have to go by the standards that you're defining right now. I can go in, create it, and potentially save myself time on that daily basis, on the weekly basis, on the monthly basis. Am I right?
Exactly. So yeah, beautiful transition. Nailed it. I
told you I'm working on it.
All of these, so this is basically part one of this live session. What we wanted to share with you is done. These dashboards are basically dashboards we've built so far. So you can see we've been quite focused on just some key dashboards. Otherwise, we're more focused on actually rolling out with some beta users and getting inspiration from the people who actually use this on a daily level. But yeah, the cool thing, and what we'll focus on in the next section, and we'll probably take around 15-20 minutes for this, is all of these dashboards have been built by using what's available in these explorers. So we'll dig into this now, and Michael and I were speaking before the session what we should build, and we actually said, let's just build a completely new dashboard from scratch, which we've got feedback on a lot. So you probably noticed here we have quite a few dashboards, which they're just very, very broad dashboards. Yeah, group performance, pickup and total, units sold report. But what we at Pace really care about, actually, when we look at the pricing, is the details. How is a night performing? How are price points performing? So what we're going to focus on now for the next 20 minutes, for anybody who's curious to see how you actually build a dashboard, we'll actually build a new dashboard, which is, should we call it a night analysis? I think we haven't settled on a name yet. But that's basically what we're trying to focus on. And we'll start off with one chart to kind of show you what's possible and to what extent you can actually customize the data here. But please feel free also to kind of comment if you have any ideas, or you're curious if we can actually chart certain things. Feel free to kind of just leave a comment, and we'll see if we can make it happen. This is this is unlike other demos where we have a prepared dashboard. We'll actually be winging most of this. So except for the first chart, I think.
Exactly. It's what I was going to say. Either the people looking at us now or people even at a later time looking at a recording, the one thing we want to try to do with that format is not to do a bi-weekly actual demo, but we really like to know from people who are listening to that what they would like to see. And as you, Luca, navigate into these different options, it'd be really great if some people could just come up, try to challenge us maybe with some ideas. It's a beta. We can't promise we'll be able to do absolutely everything straight away. But it would be really great if we could base some of these next sessions that we'll be doing onto stuff that people actually want to see. So I think that's quite important.
We already have a folder for this, right? From last time, like a.
Yeah, I think the last time we built a pickup dashboard. So
yeah.
we'll see all the dashboards we're building every week in here. But yeah, so Michael and I, just before the session, had to think about at least one chart we thought would be cool on a dashboard if we want to analyze one night. So I'm going to start with this one.
I'm not sure we should take all the credit for this either, Lucas.
That's true. That's actually true.
The real truth here is really that we've rolled it out to a couple of customers already. And just like you said, the dashboards are sort of still in the making. So while we're adding more and more of these standardized dashboards, I, for one, have a mean segmentation that I hope will be ready soon. But we're obviously also collecting a lot of feedback from customers. And one thing that seems to be appearing frequently is how you sort of evaluate possibly your ADR, your occupancy throughout that booking window. And that's what we thought would be interesting today, because it's, again, we tend to look at how occupancy evolves throughout the booking window and potentially also how the ADR evolves, but you rarely see the impact of what new reservations that are coming in has on your ADR on the books. So if there is a way to sort of display that in a good way where you show both, how your occupancy grows throughout that booking window, along with your ADR and the ADR that you're actually picking up room nights at, then we thought that would be a pretty cool way to sort of build into one view.
Yeah, perfect. So you've just coincidentally led us on to a question which was actually just posed by somebody on the channel. So a question that came up was, can we plot multiple KPIs into the same chart? And the answer is yes. And this is actually something we will do now. So as Michael described, what we'll do now is we want to analyze a particular night and a particular room type, and we want to see how the booking curve evolves over time. And in the same context, we want to actually see what our selling rate was on those individual nights. So to do this, I'm just going to go ahead with this, and you guys just ask questions if you don't follow. I'm probably going to be a bit fast because of time, but feel free to slow me down. So I've chosen a particular night, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start building our table of data, basically the table of data that ultimately I need to build a chart. So we have our filter set. I'm going to choose a pickup date as my x-axis. So that's basically all dates where bookings have occurred in a booking window. And against those booking dates, I will plot our net unit pickup. The reason I'm picking the net unit pickup is because this actually includes cancellations as well. So if we were to have cancellations, we could see the booking curve grow. We could potentially actually see it flatten or going down again because cancellations have been occurring. And if I run this as a first, actually, I'm going to add our revenue pickup here as well. And we'll quickly see our first chart, hopefully, which is running in the background. There we go. Well, how long fast? 7 seconds. So let's have a look at this. Yes, this is absolutely beautiful. This is exactly what I wanted to show. No, just kidding. This is obviously the raw data. So this is transactional level data. So we might have to take 1 or 2 steps to combine it into something which is meaningful to us for a particular analysis. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to build a booking curve. And to build a booking curve, I basically just need to build a cumulative sum of the units sold and the revenue. So what we can do here is we can actually build our own calculations because we don't have a cumulative sum in here that is available for you to just click on. So I'm just going to build this cumulative revenue, which is just a running total of net revenue. There it is. And we're going to do another one, which is, Michael, how do we call this? Units sold?
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I was always used to room nights, but the fact is that it's so much broader what we're looking at now than more than rooms. So I think unit nights probably is the way to go.
Perfect. So we have our cumulative sums. We can tidy up our chart a little bit. So I'm going to hide our initial values. So we just have our cumulative sums. There we go. And then we're just going to actually flip this around. That makes more sense. And now we can see a revenue curve and a pickup sales curve. So a unit sold curve. They're not particularly helpful because they are both plotted on the same y-axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put our units sold on the other axis. And now, fairly unsurprisingly, on days where our revenue goes up, our units sold are going up as well. So plotting the revenue on here is actually not particularly helpful. So I'm just going to hide that again. What we do want to show, however, is our ADR. An ADR we can look at in 2 different ways, right? We can look at either by calculating the ADR on a particular date. So I can say on the pickup date, 1st of January 2020, what was my ADR on that date? And I can also say, well, what was my ADR overall so far? So all of the sales that happened so far and all of the revenue I've made so far. So we're going to add both because why not? And to calculate our ADR, all we need is we need our net revenue pickup, and we need to divide it by the local, sorry, net, no, sorry.
And I think that just to put this next to each other is so valuable because especially for larger hotels, or if you're looking at a whole portfolio for that matter, when if you have a 500 room hotel and you're already you've sold 450 of those, and you pick up at a certain rate, but you pick up 1 reservation, and if you're only looking at the ADR that is on the books right now, it doesn't make a very big impact. But it could in reality be a very, very low rated reservation that came in. If that's the case, then you would definitely want to sort of investigate to why that's coming in, and if there's a channel we need to close. But yeah, especially just sort of having them plotted next to each other really helps in just understanding, is this the right rate to be picking up at this moment? Because my ADR on the books won't move significantly on 1 reservation when I already have 450 on the books.
Yeah, absolutely. Super good point. So in the meantime here, I just finished this analysis, but obviously it's a bit unreadable. So maybe for our daily ADR, instead of, because we just have values here if, well, we had sales in a particular day. So a chart which I quite like to use here is a scatter plot, because it just shows you on the particular days that something happened. And actually, let's just remove everything where we don't have values. So this, I think, could be our first chart. So how are you feeling about this, Michael?
I like it. So I'm basically seeing how I'm picking up in terms of occupancy or room nights on the blue here, and then I'll see how sort of my ADR on the books is evolving throughout, and then each of those reservations on the dots that is sort of showing me exactly what each reservation came in at, or what each came in at in terms of price or rate specifically. So that's good. I think that's a great start.
Perfect. Sorry. Cool. Sorry, that was the start. So this could be our first chart. So this helps us to look at, yeah. So this helps us to look at one particular night. It helps us to kind of showcase what is our ADR over time, and we have these kind of blips in daily ADR basically for each of those nights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new dashboard where I'm going to save this to.
And just I shouldn't ask too many questions maybe, but I'll do it anyways for the sake of it. Obviously, on a day level is it's very specific, and it's something that could be interesting in a lot of ways. But sometimes if I want to evaluate on sort of a broader picture, I'm just gonna make an assumption here and say that I could, instead of looking at one day, I could be looking at, say, a whole month to see if I'm responding correctly to the changes in demand.
Yeah. No, absolutely. By the way, we just had another question coming in the background, asking on what programming language this is based on. So, I mean, for the people who are technically versed and are listening and are curious, so all of our services, so this particular service is running on a data warehouse, and all of this is actually an abstraction layer which is running on SQL. So all of these measures are built by using an abstraction layer on top of SQL, which is kind of the partner that we're working with here that has provided this abstraction layer. But yeah, there's no kind of additional development needed. So this abstraction layer is actually something that we, as kind of Michael and myself, are working with to build out these measures. And that's a great thing, because it actually allows us to build out this product a lot faster without being constrained by development. But yeah, for any further kind of more detailed question on technical, I'm more than happy to take that conversation offline, just so we don't distract too much of this.
Or we could give your email for those, if I may.
Exactly. So Michael, your point was really good, which is on the fact, sorry, I'm jumping ahead, which is on the fact that this is obviously for one night, but what if we want to have multiple nights? So now that we've added this, we call it tile, to the dashboard, to a new dashboard that we called it night analysis. We could call it differently then. But to make this more flexible, because this is obviously only looking at today at the moment, we can actually create a filter in here where we say, all right, for, again, I'm kind of going through this a bit faster because I'm aware of time, but anybody who's curious to find out more, please do reach out or ask questions. So we've just created a filter that's being applied to this particular tile. And now what we can actually do is we can say, you know what, I don't want to have it just on this particular day. I want to have this for all of May, which also rhymes. And we hit run here. We will now see this chart updated, and it will be updated for the whole month of May.
There we go.
And we can actually just dig into this for a second, because I think it's important to remember, we are still also filtering on this hotel room type and this property as well. So we probably want to add some additional filters in here, which I'm just quickly gonna do. Bear with me, Michael. I know what you on. I know what you want to do next. I can feel it. Your eyes are screaming segments.
Yeah, but
all right.
Yeah, we're maybe spending a little bit too much time now during this house arrest.
What? Okay. Well, we'll leave it on property. So, all right. Well, we have our first chart. So it's just filtered on one particular room type. What else do you want to see?
Yeah, I'm gonna forget about the room types for now, because I realize that that's the next question. But the first thing that comes to my mind is the way you've built it now. I think it's nice to see how my ADR is somewhat, at some certain cases, corresponding to an impact in or an effect of what I see in terms of pickup. And I would have hoped it would look a little bit better, but then again, I don't know who to blame for this. There's a number of reservations that are coming in when I'm right in the booking window, which just seems to be pulling down my ADR. If you hover over very clearly on the 30th or around that area.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what the actual capacity is of this property, but it seems to be moving up all the way to around 130, if not 100, and almost 145. If it happens to be the case that this goes, my capacity might just be 145 or 150. I'd be very curious to understand, why am I taking these reservations here around the 30th, which is literally below my ADR on the books, and it's just pulling down my rate, even though I'm clearly right in the booking window. I'm filling up. So for me, the first thing I would want to look at when I see this is, okay, where is this coming from? So what segment is this coming from? Where do I need to start? That's sort of the start of the investigation here. So if you could find a way for me to know where to start looking, is this through my dynamic pricing? Was it a group? And then why did we take it at such a low rate when clearly we were pacing well? Does it have to do with my travel agents? Is there something that I should have been closing out? Because at that point in time, I didn't have that much capacity left. So would there be something that you could then build so that I can quickly see that, all right, this is the segment I need to have a look at?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess what we could do is we break this chart down actually by segment. It's probably going to be a lot of data, so we might just want to focus on one of the metrics in here in one chart, and then another chart that focuses on the other metric, because otherwise we're just going to get a lot of noise. But what we could do is, let's just duplicate this. And then we edit this in here. So I'm just going to focus on the data first. So let's just focus on, what do you want to focus on first? The rate. So like the rate by segment on a particular pickup date, or the units sold?
At this point in time, I just wanna see what segment this come through. Whether it was
well, I guess both are relevant. Just figuring out.
You're just gonna answer both of those questions.
Well, I mean, we're building a dashboard. Like ultimately, the whole dashboard should hold all the answers. We don't want to like keep drilling into things. We just, if we know these are the things that we always want to look at, we just stick them all on one dashboard, right?
Fair enough.
So let's start with units sold, maybe. So I'm just gonna hide these two. And all right, well, just go with me. we'll just figure this out as we go along. So I'm just going to pivot this by segment. So this should now give us a chart that shows the booking curve. But it shows the booking curve for each segment. So we see up here before the total was 145. And now we can see lots of individual lines. We can actually see our total is a lot lower because we're looking at each of those booking curves individually now. So if we were to kind of add all of this together, we should come up to the 145 again. Actually, we can do that by stacking them. So we turn them into an area chart. So here we go. So this is all of the individual segments. If we add them all together, we'll be up at the value, the total value that we had. So this is quite interesting. I mean, this looks quite cool, but I guess this is really difficult to read if you want to find out what segment picked up on which day, right?
Yeah.
Because here, because everything is pushing everything up, right? So a stack actually doesn't make any sense. So overlay gives us a bit more of a view because we can see, okay, this is definitely picking up, but it doesn't tell you, it's really tough to see. What if we don't do cumulative, actually, and instead we do just the individual ones again. And instead of showing it like that, we show it like that. And then we stack it. Something like that.
All right.
So what we could do now, how do we call this? Bookings by segment. So obviously this is super helpful to look at in the context of the other chart. So I'm just gonna save that for the moment. So now we have here the 30th of March. We can see there's been some low prices here. So we kind of want to know, well, who's been picking up on the 30th of March? Or like the days before. And now here we can quickly see, okay, these are all the relevant dates we're looking at. And from the color coding, we can say, okay, this is pretty much all dynamic, except for the 27th, where we have one static, like on a static rate plan, and the booking on a group rate plan. So does that kind of start answering your question?
Yeah, but so that goes straight back to the beginning of this session where it's like, so they're clearly not using paste then. Yeah, well then I sort of know where to look, right? So am I the fact that you're showing me in the first chart a booking window where I'm clearly right in the middle of it, and demand just seems to be increasing, and the lowest rated reservations that I'm picking up is on my dynamic rate codes. So the ones that I'm pricing from a base rate, an online rate, and so on and so forth. So I think for my takeaway after having looked at this would probably go in and see how am I pricing my online channels in this instance. So I wouldn't be done with my analysis per se. I think another table would do, but I already know where to look. And I actually realize already that there might be something I can do to improve here for the future.
Okay. Well, there's definitely tons of things that we could add here. I'm just wary of time, and we successfully managed to completely overrun. So whoever is still with us, respect.
Thank you.
Around. Yeah. But yeah, maybe this is a good point to stop on that note, because the next thing that you now mentioned, to look at kind of, okay, what is the kind of the selling rate that we have across different channels? That's definitely something we could basically plot next to this now. But maybe that's something for us to pick up next time. Maybe let's close this here. And I hope we got some people excited about pace analytics and what's possible, and the ability for us to kind of show more in the future. If you guys are interested, if you are, definitely make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we'll actually probably have at some point updates on there as well. But more importantly, make sure to like our LinkedIn page, so you get all of the updates whenever we post another event. I think the next one is scheduled in 2 weeks, so the Wednesday in 2 weeks again, and then we can continue on this dashboard. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that, or anyone who survived this whole hour, you know, if you don't want to post it now, or you want to just, if you have ideas about what we could build, go ahead and email it at philip@paysup.com, and we'll give that a try instead. I find this super interesting. I think it's a very valuable analysis to make. But you know, there's a whole lot of other analytics that we can build, so just reach out.
Awesome, cool. Well, with that beautiful closing remark, I'm gonna stop sharing. And yeah, thanks to everybody again for joining, for staying patient until the end. If there's still somebody there, I don't know, I don't see the count. But yeah, we hope to see you soon again. Ping us questions, post on LinkedIn, leave a comment here, wherever you want to. Feel free to reach out. If you are curious to actually join the beta program and you're an existing customer, feel even more incentivized to reach out. We want to get this out to you. We want to see what type of dashboards you would like to build, and where we can provide additional support. And
that's valid even if you're not an existing customer, because obviously we'd like to welcome you as a new customer if you're keen to see what Pace Analytics can do.
That's the difference between product and commercial. It's always,
exactly.
Commercial is always one step ahead.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks for joining, and I speak to you later, guys.
Ciao.
Thank you, guys.